There's a dominant life form on this planet, and it isn't us. We may dwarf individual bugs, but collectively they have a larger impact on our lives than we can possibly imagine. They were here 400 million years before us. We invaded their territory. From the bug's perspective, we're just another habitat ready to be colonized. They're infesting all our lives, watching, waiting for a chance to invade.
I was in tears because I knew my house was being eaten and there was really nothing I could do about it. Because once these things get in, they're almost impossible to get rid of.
Health officials say they will continue spraying across the city.
I'm telling you, at night, I can hear them. I can hear them, and it's...
If you thought bugs were just a nuisance to be tolerated in our world, think again, because it's you who's living in a bug world.
But it seems like about 500 of them climb up your leg and then all of a sudden say, sting.
For the last 400 million years, it hasn't been the most powerful or glamorous animals, the dinosaurs or the mammals, that have ruled this earth. It's been the bugs. From the start, the creeping, crawling masses have dominated the earth by sheer numbers. Then, humans appeared. We cleared the wilderness under the impression that the world could be sanitized and controlled, and that we could create a place safe from the insect hordes. But we are not safe. The bugs never went away. Today, alien life forms are taking over whole cities, and killers are crossing continents unchecked. When insects move in on our world, it seems there is little we can do to stop them. Insects aren't responding to human methods of warfare at all. We simply don't know enough about them to win. But as we try to understand them better, we are discovering ways to harness some of their strange powers for our own purposes. We are overwhelmed by these scuttling creatures. They cannot be extracted from our lives. Even the stringent regulations of the American Food and Drug Administration are forced to accept some unavoidable insect ingredients. Up to 2 maggots in every can of tomatoes. The choice of 30 fly eggs or 1 maggot per 100 grams of tomato paste. 60 aphids, mites and thrips per 100 grams of broccoli. 225 insect fragments and no more per serving of macaroni. 20 maggots of any size, whole or sliced, per can of mushrooms. A total, on your plate, of 270 insects, whole or in pieces, and 23 maggots. In the war on insects, science has been left with the impossible task of keeping track of the enemy. Over 1 million species of insect have been collected so far, but this could be just the tip of the insect iceberg. New species are turning up every day. It seems endless. Just keeping track of a few of the bad guys is about as much as we can manage. Some of the worst offenders held captive in laboratories around the world include the Japanese beetle. Attacks 25 million acres of turf annually. The fall armyworm causes 50% yield loss in infested crops. The boll weevil, the target of 1/3 of all US pesticides. The corn earworm causes $500 million in damage a year. And the most infamous of them all, the locust, responsible for some of the worst famines in human history.
Our lesson this morning is taken from the Old Testament, the prophet Joel. What the cutting locust left, the swarming locust has eaten. And what the swarming locust left, the hopping locust has eaten. What is it, Joan?
Teacher, what is a locust?
Locust is the name ancient writers gave to the grasshopper. For a nation has come up against my land, powerful and without number. The fields are laid waste, the ground mourns, because the grain is destroyed.
Locusts still emerge in biblical proportions. In the Australian outback, 800 miles from Sydney, there have been unusually heavy spring rains. This may lead to one of the biggest swarms in living memory. For now, the locust control experts can only wait for the enemy to show its face. But they need to be ready. If it happens, it will happen fast.
You going to mug me?
I'm not going to mug you.
Is that gorgeous or what, eh?
And I believe I can run a decent marathon.
Thank you very much.
Download Veely now.
Right, Bernie, we might head off to the southeast. The property rang up and said they got a big swarm down there, so we'll head down that way and check it out. Departing Broken Hill this time.
This is a search and destroy mission.
Yeah, the hoppers gave that a fair caning a few weeks ago. It's pretty bad condition, that crop on this northern end of it.
All hatching sites must be taken out. In just a few days, young hoppers will become winged, swarming locusts. A swarm may number 500 million individuals and cover 400 square miles. In just one day, they will eat enough to feed a city of 30,000 people. One of the latest strategies is to use a biological weapon, spraying them with a kind of locust foot rot, a fungus that eats them from the inside out, exploding in an eruption of spores that reinfect any surviving animal. This year, at least, the hordes have been controlled. But there are other swarms that seem unstoppable. Ant colonies are highly organized societies. It's their organization that makes them a sophisticated, coordinated invasion machine. One type of ant has been taking over America at a rate of up to 120 miles a year. Fire ants are more than just an annoyance. They can kill. Fire ants are a reminder to us all. None of us are safe from insect invasion.
Fire ants are everywhere. Here we are in Jackson, Mississippi. It's the state capital. There's the governor's mansion. This is a little urban park. I'm sure they treat for fire ants, but they're still here. In fact, here's a dead mound, looks like. I guess it's been treated. But I'm sure we can find a live man down here somewhere.
A single colony may number 250,000 ants, each with a sting like a red-hot needle. With no natural predators keeping them in check, their populations are exploding. There are now more ants here than in the whole of their native South America. Jerome Goddard is Mississippi's public health entomologist. He's been working on the front line of this invasion for years.
Fire ants were accidentally brought into the United States in the Mobile, Alabama area in the early 1900s and have subsequently spread to most of the southern one half of the United States. They characteristically make a mound. When disturbed, they come boiling out, stinging everything in sight. It seems like they all climb up your leg and sting all at one time. It may actually not be the case. They may just be stinging so rapidly that it seems that way. But it seems like about 500 of them climb up your leg and then all of a sudden say, sting.
At worst, this can cause a fatal allergic reaction. At best, every sting leaves an agonizing blister.
There was a man in Alabama who was in a bar and he was drunk. And he decided to try to walk home, and somewhere along the way he didn't make it, so he was going to go to sleep, so he used a fire ant man as a pillow and received over 5,000 stings.
The fire ant control campaign has been described as the insect Vietnam, but this war is still going on. Over $2 billion a year are spent trying to control them. Nothing has worked. Why are these things so indestructible? To understand the power of the ant, we have to imagine a whole new concept of existence. Imagine a giant creature that can split itself into 1,000 little bodies. They all function as one, but individuals are expendable, so it's almost impossible to kill. This is not science fiction. This is the superorganism. Here is one leafcutter ant. And this is another. Although different individuals, they're both just parts of the whole leafcutter organism. The individuals are linked together by an invisible web of chemical messages called pheromones that allow the masses to act as one. To explain this concept, the different roles in the colony have been famously compared to the different parts of the human body. The queen is the reproductive organ. The workers are the supporting brain, heart, and gut. The exchange of liquid food among colony members is equivalent to the circulation of blood. One person is not the same as a single ant. It's the whole colony of ants that functions like one human body. This outlandish way of life has made the ant one of the most prolific creatures on Earth, and one of the most indestructible. Ants are only one example of the superorganism. There is another lurking in the bowels of this house. Its combined weight is around 60 pounds, but it's almost impossible to find. Dogs are trained to sniff it out. Pray this man doesn't find one in your home. It is a termite colony, and it eats houses from the inside out. Formosan termites hitchhiked to New Orleans in the 1940s on boats from Asia. For the termites, it was a feast of dead wood in every direction. For humans, this was the old war on a new front. The battle was brought into the living room. Ed Martin has been fighting termites house to house for 30 years.
It's absolute panic. If you have several hundred or several thousand termites inside of your house, you think that tomorrow your house is going to collapse. See this bulging up here? That's gone.
At first, there was sheetrock here with paneling on top, the same way it is around the rest of the room. Okay. And they had started to stick their heads out of one of those little holes.
The soldiers come out to plug the hole and defend the colony. They'll plug any hole into the colony that shows up, and as you see right now, they're biting on my finger.
They're pretty active.
Yeah, oh, they're trying to do things.
They would come from this area here.
Well, actually, a lot of them came up from underneath the washing machine.
Yeah, from underneath. They came from everywhere. They came, all in this area here. I remember seeing them crawling out of this wall over here.
The Shimp family moved to New Orleans 3 years ago. This was their dream home. But the house had a dark secret, and now their dream home is disintegrating around them.
He would call me at work and he's like, they're swarming again, and I would just sit there and cry, and one day I was sitting in the back and I was in tears because I knew my house was being eaten and there was really nothing I could do about it.
Ignorance about termites is no longer acceptable. These bugs have made it into the primary school curriculum.
When do termites become a problem?
When they get inside your house.
Right, and one termite doesn't eat very much, so when is it going to be a problem? When there's what?
There's a lot of them.
Right.
Like 5 million.
And one of the other ladies from work came walking by and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I explained it to her. She started crying with me. I was just so disgusted and just so, I felt helpless.
The scale of the problem is enormous. This is the queen, the womb of the organism. A pulsating bag of eggs that can produce up to 1,000 new termites a day. But if you have the time and the money, there is a way to stop the destruction. The house is wrapped up like a patient with an infectious disease. The termite, like the ant, is a superorganism. To destroy it, every member of the colony must die. The only sure method is to gas them. The deadly vapor may kill in seconds, but it needs 24 hours to seep into all their hiding places. It's a massive effort to kill such tiny creatures, but for this house at least, the battle has been won. We have grand dreams of creating a world free of bugs. But when occasionally we succeed, we realize we need bugs. These massive modern farms are an example. The blossoming crops need to be pollinated, and there's nothing here to do it. Farmers must call on a motorized cavalry. Domesticated honeybees are being driven around America to do the work wild bees are too rare to do. In this truck, there are 24 million professional pollinators. Each hive can make over 10 million flower visits in a day. The secret to this efficiency is communication. These dancing bodies are a bee language. They translate something like this. Our reward in this relationship is $15 billion in agricultural revenue. The bees' reward is nectar. Back in the hive, they regurgitate the sugary solution and dehydrate it. The end result is honey. Honey is regurgitated bee spit. It takes 4.5 million flower visits to make a pound of honey. That's the equivalent of a bee flying around the world 4 times to collect a single jar. Man's relationship with bees dates back to the Stone Age, but in 1957, it all went wrong. A killer was set loose on the Americas.
A maniacal killer breeds a strain of giant bees that can kill a human being on command.
In an attempt to produce more honey, we made this beast for real. Scientists crossed the aggressive African bee with the docile honeybee and created a monster. A superorganism with wings and stings. The killer bee has proved impossible to control, and they're spreading faster and further than expected. Dave Rubik has been tracking killer bees as they spread across the United States at 250 kilometers a year. To get a sample from a wild hive in Arizona, he must penetrate the bug world's ultimate defense system.
When an angry bee finally stings, it's the beginning of the war. These bees can turn into something that's really a nightmare. Doesn't always happen. I hope we're not going to see it happen today, but we have to have a lot of respect for these animals. Potentially, every hive of bees deadly.
If just one bee releases an alarm pheromone into the air, then the entire hive will attack.
The good thing is we're downwind, and the first thing they would notice would be a smell. That's a signal it may be a predator. Nobody's stung me yet. They're not going to sting until I get much closer. Look at that. Buzzing around, looking, checking out my backpack. Just don't sting. If any bee stings, it releases a pheromone in the air. It can attract other bees within 200 feet from the nest. They can be a serious contender for anything as big as an ox.
With years of practice, Dave knows how to read the danger signs and can get closer than anyone else would dare without a bee suit.
Look at that. These flight paths are amazing. They don't deviate even if they knew the net were there. They just keep going the same path they've taken. Okay, I've got a couple bees in the net. I'm going to back off and then take my sample. There's a bee in my face. That's what I didn't want. That's good. It's only one bee. Now, these are the bees that I really don't want to get the alarm pheromone going. Cyanide gas in here knocks the bees down right away. And you can see, by themselves, they don't do much at all, but these things are at least as deadly as any poisonous snake you'll run into on the desert, with a striking range of 100 feet.
There is no way to stop this invasion, and they are not confined to the desert.
In the United States, at least in the South, we're going to have to know how to live with honeybees from Africa. They found everything they need here to survive. No competitors, no serious predators, and they're here to stay.
So what's it like to be attacked by killer bees? From the safety of a thick bee suit, Dave can show us how bees become mass killers. This is one of Dave Rubik's more dangerous demonstrations. By upsetting just one bee, he will push the bug world's nuclear red button. Within minutes, up to 20,000 bees can be called to the attack.
This colony was so docile before this got started, but they keep coming because the alarm pheromone drives more of them out to do this. 1 bee, then 2 bees, then 10 bees, then 50. And now there are 3 more that just stung me on the arm. You have to wonder what people do when they don't have bee suits. Well, I've seen it a few times, and it's very disturbing. A horse rolling on the ground with these bees just releases more and more sting, odor in the air, and a horse would be stung to death in about a half hour. This is why this is a superorganism united around the colony cause to defend itself as fast as possible with as many stinging bees as they can get in the air in a hurry, like now. Hold on, I got a bee on the inside. It starts to throb after about 50 bees have stung in the same area. I'm getting them inside here, so I think I'm gonna have to bail out. Okay. These bees are angry. What did we do? We didn't do anything. One little bee was squished, and this is what happened. I can't believe it.
It was our ignorance that created the killer bee. It's clear we just don't know enough about the bug world. Recently, one man's work showed us that we know even less than we thought. Terry Irwin entered the Amazon jungle with a new collection technique. This work could shatter all previous ideas about how many insect species are really out there. We've been collecting and identifying insects for hundreds of years, trying to keep track of what we're up against. It appears we've only been scratching the surface. Terry's insecticide fogger reaches places inhabited by animals no human has ever seen before.
The incredible thing is every single day that we fog, we get hundreds of new species that we haven't seen before. Even though we fogged a lot, we're finding new stuff, discovery.
What Terry is discovering is the sheer scale of our ignorance. 20 years ago, we thought there were about 2 million more species of bugs left to discover. But according to this study, there are more like 29 million.
When you look at the ratio of this group of animals to everything else, including us, all the mammals and plants and so forth. And if you use my estimation that there's 30 million species on the planet, then the ratio is 97% to the insects and their relatives and 3% to everything else.
An estimated 29 million species of bug yet to be discovered could be viewed as a horrifying prospect. But to assume all insects are a problem to us would be a mistake. Most have other roles to play. A new look at the bug world could reveal not just pests and invaders. Insects might even be recruited as allies. At Fire Ant Control, they may have found a new use for just one small member of the insect legions. This tiny fly can be used as the biological equivalent of a guided missile. The flies have been imported from South America and are being tested in a kind of fire ant hell. Small ant colonies nest in the dark under black cups. But every 15 minutes, the cups lift up. Somewhere else, another cup drops down. The exposed ants are desperate to move their brood into the other cup. But there are flies patrolling the space between, selecting their targets. If fear had any meaning in the insect world, then these ants would be afraid, and with good reason. With each strike, the fly fires an egg into the ant's body. The egg turns into a maggot and eats its way into the ant's head. After the maggot has finished eating the ant's brain, the next generation of body snatchers emerge. Soon, the flies may be controlling fire ants more successfully than the human exterminators. Understanding the power of insects is nothing new. To the Egyptians, the dung beetle was a god that rolled the sun across the sky. They sensed that in some way, bugs make the world go round. In the 1800s, European settlers to Australia learned the importance of this beetle. They imported cows to a land without the right kind of dung beetles. The cows produced dung, and the dung covered Australia at the rate of 12 million cowpats an hour. The economy, the ecology, and the colony were all threatened. In 1966, someone spotted the missing link, and the right beetles were sent to Australia. They went forth and multiplied. In just a few years, beetles were burying pats as fast as the cows were dropping them. To humans, it was a miracle. To the beetles, it was a simple, everyday life of rolling dung and stopping anyone else from stealing your ball. The dung is a precious underground survival capsule. With an egg laid deep into its core, the ball is baby food for the next generation. In 1995, the beetles hit the headlines again.
We rolling?
Yep.
Good. Oh, hi. All right. Australians are one of the largest pet-owning populations in the world. Over 60% of all households in Australia actually
Dog litter is a
own
problem
pet
with
of
over
some
100 tonnes produced in Sydney each day.
Another poo problem has been brewing in Sydney. The citizens are finding it hard to ignore. Dog droppings are taking over the city, and it's big news.
No one likes stepping in someone else's dog's poo. It stinks. You take it on your carpet, it's everywhere, and it's yucky to clean off shoes.
It's the funniest thing. People complain more about dogs than about the big issues. It's the little issues that seem to affect local government.
Often when you're swimming in the water, you could be sharing it with dog poo.
Which is why these ladies are earning the undying gratitude of an entire city. They started a beetle relocation program, and now dog droppings are disappearing in hours rather than weeks. All of this has made the dung beetle one of Australia's more welcome immigrants. The essential services that insects provide go beyond recycling. They've found their way into law enforcement. It's called forensic entomology, and it's based on reading the procession of insects that arrive at a corpse. Flies are the first to sniff out death. They lay eggs which hatch into hungry maggots, and they begin to dismantle the body in a very specific way. But this process varies between species. At this 2-acre lot in Tennessee, studies are revealing how insects break down the human body. Anthropologist Bill Bass set up the body farm. There's no other place like it in the world.
This body has been here a couple of weeks. You can tell this because most of the maggots have left the body. You can see down here on the arm where they have eaten a hole, where they've come and gone. And maggots don't like sunlight, so what the maggots will do is they'll leave the skin as an umbrella. So all the internal organs have been eaten away. That's just like leather right there, just like your shoe.
Here, studies show how the age of the maggots and other bugs found on a body can tell you when and even how death occurred. If you know how to read them, the insects can tell the story of a murder.
The blowflies are attracted to the orifices of the body. The eyes, the nose, the mouth, any wound in the body. If the right hand was down to bone, the left hand still had tissue on it like it does there, then that's when you want to, as a law enforcement officer, you want to be very careful, because that's an indication that what you have is that individual was stabbed or cut so that the flies are attracted to that opening in the skin.
This macabre work is vital research for the police and the FBI.
I testify in court which criminals have been convicted based upon the evidence supplied by the insects. And really what I'm doing is using the research from the body farm, speaking for the insects and what they tell us about how long that individual's been there.
This work relies on a constant supply of bodies. Surprisingly, people actually donate their bodies to this project. But then it's the only place in the United States where your body can return to the earth as nature intended.
We buried bodies, we put them in automobiles, we put them in trunks of cars, we put them in water, with clothing, no clothing, shade, sun. And most people ask you, how can you do this? It smells so bad. I have a very poor sense of smell.
In an ironic twist, an understanding of the maggot's love of decaying flesh is now being turned to help people cheat death. Brian McCartney lost his toes due to poor circulation, and now the wound won't heal. Wounds like this get smothered in their own infected flesh. Certain maggots only eat dead flesh.
Patients don't actually have to see them, but the staff have to handle them, which not everybody likes to do, and I think you can understand that some women are fairly squeamish. But for the patient, they don't really mind as long as it's going to work and it's not going to be too painful. When you give an explanation to the patient what you're going to use, pretty horrified at first at the thoughts of using live insects on their body.
I've tried bandages for different types of bandages, and I'm just fed up, and I said to myself, I'll try the maggots.
Brian has tried everything. The wound on his foot will simply not heal. The maggots are his last hope. And these aren't any old maggots. They have a pedigree. They come from a laboratory in Wales, where flies have been trapped into reproductive slavery, a life of captive luxury. They're given everything a fly could want, a diet of pure sugar, and a supply of prime liver for egg laying. These are the cleanest flies in the world. Their offspring will succeed where our modern medicine has failed. It takes just 3 days for the maggots to work their magic.
So you didn't have any nasty painful sensations or anything last time?
No, just like normally just now.
Brian, that isn't pulling too much, is it?
No.
Oh, wow. They're going to be really pleased when you see this wound. It's absolutely lovely. You've done a really good job.
For the first time, Brian's wound is starting to heal.
These poor things have been on here for 3 days. They've worked really hard, and I'm going to throw them away. Feel like rewarding them with a good feed.
Our new desire to create partnerships with bugs seems to know no bounds. All over the world, technology is being mobilized to harness this newfound power. In Germany, the continuing dialogue between man and bee is being taken to a new level. Here, they're tapping into the secrets of their complex language by using tiny radar-transmitting backpacks. Elsewhere, scientists are even trying to use the bees' detection systems to track down landmines. And in the ultimate U-turn, our biblical enemy, the locust, is being turned from the dark side. This locust isn't just watching Star Wars for fun.
The locust is immobilised here in a little seat, which is quite comfortable, a little plasticine seat. And we are able to use a very fine wire here, and we can pick up little bursts of electrical activity which is conducted along the wire to a screen here. And we can monitor which features of the visual image.
Claire Rind at Newcastle University realised that the locust reacts to the near collisions on film as if they were other locusts in a swarm.
And it's at those shots where the neuron fires at incredibly high rates. It tells the locust that it's time not to be there. We think that the spaceships could represent two things. They could either represent a bird rocketing down and about to eat the locust. The other thing that could represent is another locust. These animals fly in great swarms, and they each hold their station about 30 centimetres away from the neighbouring locust, and they have to avoid collisions in those swarms.
Collision avoidance in mass transport systems could result from these studies on the locust brain.
If it could fly the plane, I think there would be certain circumstances where you'd rather have a locust pilot than a human one. But I think when the time comes to sort of get out of the plane, the locust would be interested in the field of grass rather than going home to mum.
The beauty of insects is their design simplicity.
Insects are an amazing source of ideas because they do it with a very small brain. If you want to copy something, you may as well copy the simplest system which does the task. It's very good at collision avoidance. And those rapid reactions would be ideal for collision avoidance systems in cars or in robots.
At the University of California, there are robots wandering the Berkeley campus. This is one of the most versatile robots ever, and its design is entirely based on bugs. Bob Full is obsessed with the bug's 400-million-year-old method of locomotion.
The result of this research is Rex, the robot hexapod. It's a six-legged robot that is remarkably simple to control with this radio controller, yet it's highly maneuverable. It can go over rough terrain or through a forest, over desert, sand, even upstairs. And this work has been inspired from the simple studies that we did on insects to extract the general principles of how they move to make this remarkable robot.
This is no toy. Rex is undergoing trials to be the first insect on Mars. The dream doesn't end with a robot having a bug's brain and a bug's body. Size is everything.
One of the next steps is to take Rex and shrink it down and get to the small scale, and nothing is known at that scale in terms of how animals move or how robots function. So we want to study animals at this small size because the world changes. It gets really sticky at this size level, yet we know animals like ants move beautifully well, and we hope to use the discoveries there to inspire small micro-robots of the future.
Then, instead of cockroaches messing up your kitchen, robots based on cockroaches will clean it up for you. The flip side is that tiny robots could become the pests of the future, equipped to spy on us in our homes. However, the future is still a long way off. It's easy to get carried away in the bizarre realm of the insect. We can get lost in the excitement of their huge potential. It's easy to forget whose world we're living in. Fire ants are a reminder. They've taken an interest in our technology.
Fire ants often get into electrical circuitry, causing all kind of problems. For whatever reason, they like to come into these things like air conditioner units or outdoor circuit boxes, traffic lights, televisions. They've even been known to cause the shutdown of some major airports. When they short out these electrical circuits, some kind of alarm pheromones are released and other ants come pouring in there, making the problem much worse. They can even make a traffic light short out and cause a wreck out in the intersection. In Florida, they say that if you have a car wreck, the fire ants will get to you before emergency services do.
Time and time again, we're reminded that we're living in a bug's world. But we've begun to realize that living with bugs doesn't have to be all bad. We are starting to appreciate the essential roles they play, no matter how ghastly. We may want nothing to do with these alien life forms, but we can never get rid of them. In New Orleans, despite the multi-million-dollar eradication campaign, the termites are back. On a warm night in May, each surviving queen can send out 1 million reproductive termites. Each pair is ready to start a new colony. Each is looking for a new home. And the problem starts all over again. It's frightening for us to accept how powerless we are against these tiny invaders. And when they take an interest in our bodies as well as our homes, the story only gets scarier.
I've been in places where there's just millions of them, like a horror movie.
There's a dominant life form on this planet, and it isn't us. We may dwarf individual bugs, but collectively they have a larger impact on our lives than we can possibly imagine. They were here 400 million years before us. We invaded their territory. From the bug's perspective, we're just another habitat ready to be colonized. They're infesting all our lives, watching, waiting for a chance to invade.
And I was in tears because I knew my house was being eaten and there was really nothing I could do about it. Because once these things get in, they're almost impossible to get rid of.
Health officials say they will continue spraying across the city.
I'm telling you, at night, I can hear them. I can hear them.
If you thought bugs were just a nuisance to be tolerated in our world, think again, because it's you who's living in a bug world.
But it seems like about 500 of them climb up your leg and then all of a sudden say, sting.
Ooh, look. Here we go.
Our homes are infested with bugs. It's been this way since we lived in caves. We tried everything to keep them out, but the bugs are penetrating all our defenses. They're invading our most personal of spaces.
I believe there's some holes in the screens. I think this fan has something to do with it. I'm not sure, but there's one right there. Oh, he just left. They're huge.
Over 70% of all the animal species on this earth are bugs. There is no avoiding these intruders.
Here, where they have little cracks.
Since we can't get rid of them, then our only hope is to find out more about them. But to do this, we must step into an alien world where our human perceptions are turned upside down. For now, only one thing is certain. They are closer than you think.
The mosquitoes are definitely in my house. Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely. Can you hear them?
If you still believe that your life is somehow bug-free, then this man is your wake-up call. There are bugs on all of us.
You mean I have them on my face right now?
I believe you do. You want to come over and check it out? Come on.
Our doubting sound man is offering a random sample of the human face for microscopic examination.
Here's a slide. And the bobby pin. Remember to scrape hard, but no blood.
We all have relatives of the spider living on our noses, eyes, and foreheads.
Don't see much. Try this here. Take off.
Not much is known about these creatures, but Cliff Dash knows it all. He's a world expert on the human face mite. If anyone can find them, he can.
There's a lot of cell debris on here. That would be typical of anybody. The way they feed is that the mouth parts are like two little needles, a pair of needles that they can stick out, and they puncture one of your skin cells, and the contents of the cell then leaks out. So the diet that they have is basically a liquid diet. Yes, you do. You have both species.
No amount of scrubbing will get rid of these intruders, but they seem to do us no harm.
So I shouldn't feel bad that I have...
No, you should feel absolutely normal. This one, by the way, happens to be a male. They're not real speed demers, but they do get around. Oh, there's an egg. See how the egg is an arrowhead shape? This is a male. In order to mate in the hair follicle, the male has to slide underneath the female and inseminate her, because the one right above it is a female, and just behind the last pair of legs there's the genital opening, and that's where he would inseminate her. Oh, this one shows a nice thing. These look like little loaves of bread sticking out of the hair follicle. There's, looks like maybe 3 or 4 adult mites right here. You can just see these things slightly moving too. They're all still alive.
How these stowaways get onto our skin is not clear, but there is an unusually high concentration of them around the nipple. It would seem they start moving onto our bodies from the first sip of milk. One species of face mite was not described until 1972. But this invader has been around for as long as the devil himself.
They are familiar to everyone in town and country and are notorious for their unpleasant habits. Their liking for human food brings them forcibly to our attention.
It's not so much their liking of our food that should concern us, it's their method of eating it. They trample over everything, tasting through their feet. Then they vomit digestive enzymes and suck up the dissolved slush.
Flies cannot be tolerated even in small numbers. Apart from being objectionable in themselves, they can be responsible for cross-infection.
That reputation for danger is well founded. A fly's foot can carry 100 different pathogens. It need only touch down for a moment to deposit a legacy of cholera, typhoid, and dysentery. One dirty footprint can seed millions of bacteria and fungal spores. Throughout human history, the fly has spread disease and death. Hardly surprising that we like to kill them.
New bug killer discovery. Raid contacts and kills all kinds of bugs indoors. Raid hunts them down like radar. Sweeps bugs from the air. Attacks them as they crawl. And kills them dead.
Not all bugs are temporary invaders like the fly. Some have moved in for good. They've swapped their wild habitat for your kitchen cupboard. We've stored processed grain for so long that these beetles now eat nothing else. But they are the least strange of your cupboard stowaways. The drugstore beetle can live off a diet of nothing but chili pepper. The cigarette beetle was once confined to the tropics, feeding on the fallen leaves of tobacco plants. Now, cigarettes provide them with a takeaway service all over the world. Inside the cupboard, there is a thriving ecosystem. Some bugs are not just fond of living with us, they've become dependent. These larvae are living on a diet of aspirin. But being a specialist like this has obvious limitations. The ultimate invader would be a bug that can live anywhere, on anything. It's called the cockroach.
Cockroaches are such nasty little creatures. Could be in a break room like this in any business or institution anywhere. They could be in the appliances. Like I know at one university they took their coffee pot apart and found them in there. They could be in the microwave and the electrical appliances. It could be up in the cabinets, up under the shelves. Be over in the refrigerator, anywhere, cracks and crevices. Just never know where they are. Most people are just totally disgusted by the little creatures. Total revulsion to them. Again, like I said, they could be up under this table, up in this food, anywhere. You just never know.
Jerome Goddard is the medical entomologist for the state of Mississippi. In the warm southern states of America, they have government departments set up specifically to deal with the problems of infestation. In 1997, the USA spent an estimated $500 million on cockroach pesticides alone. We thought we could beat this bug with poison, but we underestimated the enemy.
If you continue to treat a population of cockroaches with a particular pesticide, they become resistant. In fact, after a while, they're saying, "Squirt me, baby, give me more." They love it. They or seem to love it, or are totally unaffected by it. A long time ago, pest controllers used to talk about eradicating cockroaches from your home. That was the big word. Well, then they realized that didn't work, so they started saying, "We'll do cockroach control." Then they realized that didn't work. Now you hear them talking about cockroach management. We'll manage the cockroaches to an acceptable level.
We do need to manage the cockroach because they don't just stay in the kitchen. They're feeding in the bedroom too. They eat anything organic, and as any bug hunter will point out, humans are organic. Cockroaches particularly like to chew on the fingernails of young children.
I've been in places where there's just millions of cockroaches, like a horror movie. When you turn that light out, they come out at night, they crawl around, they crawl over people and babies and pets. They might be chewing on the fingernails or eyebrows or eyelashes. There have even been reports of children completely without eyelashes because of cockroaches.
And when a cockroach is disturbed, its instinct is to run for a dark hole. In the hospitals of Jerome's hometown of Jackson, cockroach ear is a well-known affliction. In this war, a pest controller must know what he's up against, and the cockroach is a special challenge. It has two brains, one in the head and one in the rear.
And we have evidence of that. You can cut the head off of a cockroach. It can live a long time, even without its head. We have to be careful not to get its legs. Yeah, just like that. Cut the head off. Now I'm going to flip it up, see if it'll run. Look at that. Thing's just fine. It can run, jump, walk around. Can't eat, obviously, but everything else seems intact. They'll jump, move, bump near them, they'll run. People say they'll live up to about 7 days with their head off.
If a bug can live for 7 days without a head, then anything seems possible. In this alien world, all rules are out. Nothing is sacred. Investigating the bug's world is like stepping into another universe. We're discovering animals that have powers we never dreamed possible. Hatching from this cocoon is a wasp that has a sense of smell that humans would love to harness. The tiny wasp spends its tiny lifespan hunting down tiny caterpillars in gigantic fields. For the wasp, it's a survival strategy. For us, it's an opportunity. To find out how they hunt down the caterpillars, scientists in Tifton, Georgia, have entered into a partnership with this bug. They're using bribery to tease out the secret behind the wasp's sensory skill. It turns out that the wasp is not sensing the caterpillar itself, but chemicals from the freshly eaten edge of the leaf. This lets the wasp pinpoint its prey from over a mile away. Rewarded for divulging its secrets, the wasp injects the caterpillar, but not with venom, with an egg. For this is a parasitic wasp, and its young grow in the body of another, eating the caterpillar from the inside out. This larva will hatch into a wasp that is a detection machine 100 times more acute than any human invention. These super-sensitive bugs may well be the sniffer dogs and mine detectors of our future. One day we may use a whole range of bugs to smell for us, to hear for us, and to see for us. This man has dedicated much of his life to the bug's visual world, and he's taking a new look at the original insect invader.
If you want to catch a fly, you can take advantage of his Achilles heel, which is that he jumps into the air before he flies off, to a point just behind him and about an inch above.
A trained athlete couldn't anticipate this fly. But this man knows something we don't.
Gets the fly, and there it is.
At the Fly's Eye project at Cambridge University, Simon Laughlin and his team have spent 20 years trying to read the mind of the fly. To do this, they must literally get inside its head.
What I'm going to do now is cut a hole in the cornea. It needs to be about a few facets across, so we're talking about a very small hole. Bring it up to the cornea, like that.
We insert small electrical probes into the eye and the brain of the fly to discover what's going on inside the fly's eye and brain when it's seeing things. The recordings that we get from the brain of the fly tell us how an animal's eye can see things such as movements.
It has worked, hasn't it? You'll be all right now. I know it's worked!
Hollywood thinks that a fly sees like this. In fact, its brain fuses together the images from each facet of the compound eye to form a blurry and unimpressive picture. But Simon has discovered that there is something very impressive going on. Their perception of movement is unrivaled.
The flies have excellent ability to resolve rapid changes in time. They probably have the fastest vision that's known at the moment in the animal kingdom, and they're able to see changes in light level 5 or 6 times faster than we're able to see them.
This means a fly virtually sees in slow motion, a crucial skill when you live under the noses of lumbering giants. It's as though we share the same physical space, but inhabit different dimensions. A cockroach's perception of our world is no less outlandish. The tiny hairs on its antennae can taste a single molecule, as well as detect minute changes in temperature and humidity. But they are just the short-range end of its sensory equipment. They have a long-range system too. These cerci on its tail plug into its second brain. They're exquisitely sensitive to the pressure waves generated by movement.
The only thing I can relate it to would be like being in a jet airplane. There's wind blowing against the plane going 400 miles an hour, and it would be like the pilot saying we've got a 10-mile-an-hour wind from the left side. That's just what it's like. These cockroaches can somehow know amongst all these sounds, waves, vibrations, movements, they somehow know what's different or threatening.
The cockroach can sense you through its cerci long before you can see it. They filter out the confusing jumble of pressure waves and focus in on the one that spells danger. They can react faster than we blink. Just because your kitchen appears empty, it doesn't mean it wasn't crawling moments before. Invasion by flies and roaches is bad enough, but things get far worse when the trespassers come armed with venom. Take Sydney in Australia. Today, over 3 million people live here. But long before they arrived, this area was home to the deadly funnel web spider. On warm January nights, the spiders emerge like spirits from an ancient burial ground, out to haunt the new inhabitants. In reality, it's all about sex. They're out hunting for each other. But towards dawn, frustrated males are still roaming the streets looking for a mate. This cat's in no danger. By a strange quirk of evolution, humans are the only mammals here affected by their venom. These spiders have some of the longest fangs in the business, and a bite that puts our body systems into overdrive, pouring tears, mucus, and sweat. Without treatment, you can drown in your own body fluids.
If you're fiddling around in the garden at the moment, you might keep an eye out for funnel web spiders. 6 Sydney people have been treated for bites in the last few days. The current heat and humidity providing apparently the ideal breeding conditions. And all this coming at a time when the anti-venin is in short supply.
The spiders are just looking for some daytime shelter. But if disturbed, they will attack. Funnel web spiders are temporary invaders in our homes. They return to their holes in the ground as fast as they can. But in the United States, the sheltered nooks and crannies of our houses are exactly what black widow spiders are looking for. These deadly arachnids are moving in for good. Each year, 2,500 people are bitten.
They bite very defensively and they defend their web heartily. So if they perceive you to be messing with their web, they will bite you.
Dr. Rick Clark works with San Diego's Poison Control Unit. Black widow bites are his speciality.
Hi, Poison Control, can I help you?
I got bit by a black widow.
And you saw the red hourglass on the belly?
Yeah.
Okay, and you don't hardly see any bite mark whatsoever?
It's just a little red thing.
That's right, that's typical black widow.
People will complain of nausea and vomiting. They get extremely high blood pressures in some situations.
She has been vomiting and she's just been in a lot of pain.
Where was your child bitten?
The pain will gradually encompass the entire trunk of the body, including the back, including the chest, including the abdomen. And most people who have bad bites describe this as the worst pain they've ever experienced in their life. I've had women who've been bitten that tell me that childbirth is not as bad as the pain from a black widow spider.
Fortunately, black widow venom is one of the best studied toxins of any arachnid, and there is an antivenom.
This antivenom certainly can cause allergic reactions, but having seen bad bites that I've seen, having seen how fast this antivenom can work to completely take away your pain, there's no doubt in my mind that I would want to get that if I was faced with the type of pain that I see a lot of my patients get.
Venoms are extremely complex chemicals, and developing an antidote is like cracking the spider's code. That's why this small house in America contains thousands of venomous spiders. It's home to Chuck and Anita Christensen, who, despite operating out of their front room, are the world's leading suppliers of spider venom.
Right now we've got about 50,000, depending how you count them. If you want to count all the babies, maybe 100, 150,000, but about 50,000 spiders in individual cups.
Feeding 50,000 spiders is quite an operation, and right now it's feeding time at the zoo.
This is a Chinese earth tiger, and it's got a reputation amongst the locals for having a very nasty venom. It causes a paralysis, and apparently and if it bites in the head region, it can kill a cow within a few hours. So over here, large cellar spiders. This has the most deadly venom of all spiders, according to the myth. But the reason why it doesn't affect us is the fangs are too small to bite people. And so that's one of my priorities, is just to find out what this venom does and actually how toxic it is.
Each species of spider has its own cocktail of toxins, many of which we simply do not understand. The bite of this spider, for example, occasionally causes a mysterious reaction that makes your flesh rot away.
The brown recluse is a real mystery, okay? They have a inflammatory or necrotoxin that can cause a lot of inflammation at the bite site, as well as the tissue will just basically rot away.
It's not the kind of spider you want to be chasing around the room.
As you can tell, it's a very fast spider. Something about the spiders are, we don't know what is causing these necrotic lesions. And there's been a lot of research on there, but it's still an amazing mystery about how these venoms actually work.
To study the effects of venom, you need a constant supply. Anita uses a small electric shock to encourage the black widows to give up a tiny drop. Thanks to research like this, the threat posed by species like the black widow and funnel webs have been neutralized by the creation of antivenoms. But these spiders are the devil we know. Lurking in the garden and invading the corner of our homes are animals with mysterious necrotoxins, flesh-rotting chemicals that science cannot explain. Analysis into the venom of the Australian white-tailed spider suggests that it's no more dangerous than a common house spider. But Helen Midgley has a different story to tell.
This is where the old veggie patch was. It was brimming in those days. To get to the tomatoes, I had to walk into the pumpkin leaves, and that's where I got bitten. I had a bumper crop that year, and I thought I'd pick the rest of the crop because it was just about finished. When I plunged my leg through the pumpkin leaves, I was bitten, and consequently I don't have a veggie patch anymore because I'm too scared to come into this part of the garden.
No one knows why, but one bite from this spider can set off outbreaks of rotting flesh all over the body. Amputation is sometimes the only cure.
The plastic surgeon said to me that they would have to cut the area out surrounding the ulcer, which had gone gangrenous, and I thought, okay. And then the sister wanted me to sign a form. I was absolutely terrified when I saw this form, and she explained it to me, that I would lose my foot if they couldn't fix it. And it was the most dreadful thing that I've ever had to go through.
The symptoms that people like Helen have suffered are so complex that the medical community questions whether the spider can be wholly responsible. They've even suggested that the spider and the symptoms are unrelated. But Helen is gathering the experiences of others. It's a grim catalogue.
I've had 2 toes amputated on my right foot.
My foot just blew up. I had, if you like, 2 feet on one foot.
My hand would swell enormously, and then the skin would just peel off.
People aren't feeling alone anymore because that's what I felt when I was bitten, and I don't want anyone else to feel alone because the suffering with this spider bite is horrific.
The white-tailed spider's venom is proving an especially difficult code to unravel. Maybe venom samples provided by a man like Chuck will hold the key. A man who likes to spend his spare time watching the courting rituals of tarantulas.
Come on, guy, the other way around. Come on, come on. We're back over here. We got some action down there now.
Spider venom is designed to immobilize other bugs. It's pure chance that it can have such a devastating effect on us. When threatened, a spider may bite in self-defense, but they really have no interest in us.
Excellent.
But there are bugs out there whose only interest is us. These creatures are specifically designed to hunt us down.
Okay, holding that for me. Hold that.
A body beautiful to you or I is to them a lush and fertile world waiting to be explored.
Hands for the hair. Excellent. Okay, holding that. Hold that. Gorgeous. Hold that.
At huge magnification, parts of our skin look like a barren moonscape. But on the horizon, the hairs on our legs are ideal for colonization. The head of the tick is precisely designed to latch on to our skin. The level of disgust that we feel for these creatures depends on the intimacy of the relationship. In our more private parts, there are animals that can survive nowhere else. The claws of the crab louse can only grip the pubic hair of a human. On our heads, there may be lice. An average infestation is 20. A bad case may number thousands. But these creatures don't just inhabit us, they feed off us. To many of them, we're just a big bag of blood. And there's nothing more nutritious than that. Some blood feeders don't live on our bodies. They are visitors. They track us down by the trail of carbon dioxide we exhale. They live nearby, waiting till we're fast asleep before coming out to feed. The bedbug used to live in caves feeding on mammals like bears and woolly rhinos. But today, they find our bedrooms much more comfortable. Their sharp mouthparts are designed to punch through skin, which at their scale is like elephant hide. These animals infested our past, but this is one intruder we've managed to control. Or so we thought.
For some reason, they're coming back again, and we hear more and more cases of bed bugs being in fancy hotels or people's homes, et cetera, et cetera. We think that this is because there's less and less widespread spraying for cockroaches, and apparently that had killed a lot of bed bugs. But now that cockroach control consists of baiting and stuff like that, bed bugs are back.
Pull this back and take a look. Ah, okay, yeah, that's right. This is a brand new bed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Steph.
Yeah.
Remember the old one? We found the infestation. We found adult bed bugs stuck right in the crevices of your bed.
This bed made its mark in medical history. Stephanie Marshall Penner woke in the middle of the night to discover she was living with 1,000 bedbugs.
I woke up one night to go to the ladies' room. I used a flashlight in the dark, and I was pulled the blankets back, and I noticed to the left of me on the bed a bug, and it burst. It was blood all over my hands.
Oh, yeah.
So I freaked out. I got across to the light switch, turned the light on, and I saw this infestation of all these little creepy crawlers on my comforter, and underneath I looked while my husband slept through it, facing his back to me.
Stephanie has called in the San Francisco Department of Health to help her deal with the problem.
They have a sickly sweet smell, and I don't know if you could smell that, but I smelled it right away. And it looks like someone, maybe your husband, got the pepper shaker, black pepper shaker, and then started shaking spots and all over.
Exactly.
And that's their poop. That's their poop. And
right.
That's digested blood, your blood.
Yes.
You were so surprised to find that they were in your picture frames, and also back here where they have little cracks. Half of the adult bed bug was right here. Yeah, here.
See, and they were also stuck here.
Yeah, you would find baby bed buggers underneath these things too, and in the corners.
You see any sign of infestation? Curtains along the windows.
All you need is one pregnant female, you see. One pregnant female is enough to do it. Got pregnant because some male punched her through the stomach. Okay. These bugs, I mean, they're idiotic. Did you know that they have males and females? But the males are so aggressive. They have different sex organs, but the male just punches his sex organ through the abdomen of the female.
Oh my God.
And deposits his sperm, and the female takes it. They do that constantly. And you know, some males, they don't know the difference between a male and a female. They're so stupid. The male punches another male through the stomach and, you know, does that to him too. So, you know, these bugs are very unusual. What they do is they come out at night when you're sleeping and they plug in just like a mosquito, doink, and then they take a little sip, unplug, and then they walk up a few paces, and they plug you again. They take a little sip, unplug, and walk up. That's why bed bug bites are in a straight line, because that's their habit.
In South America, vampire bugs come in nightmarish proportions. This is the largest blood-sucking bug in the world. It's the kissing bug, so called because it likes to feed from your lips. It also transmits a kind of sleeping sickness called Chagas disease. But transmitting dangerous pathogens has nothing to do with size. There are bugs far smaller than this one, which have changed the course of history. Inside this small package is one of the greatest blood hunters of them all. It can wait for a year before the sound of a footfall unleashes the beast from its cocoon. It's the flea. The flea's leap is a phenomenon. It can accelerate 100 times faster than a space rocket, a feat that has made this animal a star.
And now, the whirlwind chariot race. Who wants a bet? I'll have a nicker on number 2. They're off. By the way, do you know that these chariots are roughly 100 times the weight of the fleas pulling them? What next, I wonder? From dexterity to strength, and Samson the Mighty. It has been worked out, do you know, that this feat of strength is equivalent to a human being dragging an elephant round the outside of a cricket field.
Famous for its strength, the flea is infamous for its bite. It spreads bubonic plague, a disease which can reach pandemic proportions. The first outbreak struck in 541 AD. It wiped out 35% of the population of southern Europe. In the 14th century, it was the cause of the Black Death that swept through London, killing half the inhabitants, and broke out sporadically for another 300 years. The third pandemic burst out of China in 1892. It killed 6 million people in India alone. In the autumn of 1980, at this school in California, a primary school teacher died of plague. Only luck prevented her passing it to her 30 students. Most people think of plague as a thing of the Dark Ages, but it's still transmitted by fleas, between rodents like squirrels and rats. Plague is far from a historical curiosity. With the discovery of antibiotic-resistant strains elsewhere in the world, plague, lurking on the edge of our cities, remains a serious concern. Scientists at California's Vector Control know they can't stop it, but they vigilantly monitor it. In a single year, 12 squirrels tested positive at this San Diego campground. But now, rodents, and therefore fleas, no longer have the same access to humans to be the threat they once were. It's a whole different story when a disease carrier is highly mobile and possesses the tracking capabilities of a guided missile. This is a supreme predator. You can run, but you cannot hide. By locking onto a plume of different smells, the mosquito can hunt you down from 100 feet away.
The mosquito uses a lot of signals to find you. To begin with, carbon dioxide that you emit as you breathe, things that are in your sweat, including lactic acid and various urea products, all kinds of nice smelling things that indicate to a female mosquito that there's food around.
You can't hide in the dark. At close range, she switches to a heat-seeking function, guiding her to where your blood pumps closest to the skin. Each year, the mosquito infects up to 300 million people with malaria alone.
She will probe around, then she begins drawing blood up the central hypodermic syringe and feeds on the blood. And of course, at the same time, she's been using her saliva to facilitate entry into the skin and to promote the movement of blood into herself.
At Harvard Center for Disease Control, Paul Reiter keeps tabs on the long list of diseases carried by the mosquito. It's not just about malaria. A mosquito like this, Aedes aegypti, carries dengue and yellow fever throughout the world.
Aedes aegypti is probably as domesticated as the cockroach or the housefly. It lives in close association with people. It only bites people. It doesn't waste its bites on other creatures. It's susceptible to the virus, and it lives quite a long time. So all those factors make it into a very good transmitter of many infectious diseases.
Imagined that our modern cities will keep us free from disease. But in the summer of 1999, an event took place that shattered this illusion of safety. A deadly brain-swelling disease called West Nile fever broke out in New York City.
The larvae that you see here are of Culex mosquitoes of the species that are transmitting West Nile virus. If you had made a Hollywood movie of this rather surreal event, I think people would have found it a little bit hard to believe. A virus that's endemic in Africa, Asia, and Europe suddenly arrives in New York. It almost seems unbelievable.
7 people died in a matter of months.
A handful of new suspected cases and a horde of helicopters and trucks set to spray marks the latest in New York's battle against encephalitis. This weekend, choppers and trucks are headed to Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Manhattan to spread a dose of insecticide. The aim is to kill as many mosquitoes as possible.
Yeah, you just don't know. It'd be hard if she can't talk yet, so it'd be hard for us to know if she says something bit me or whatever. So it's a frightening thing to think that the littlest thing like a mosquito bite could turn into something terrible.
The residents were suddenly faced with a tiny but deadly invader.
I'm telling you, at night I can hear them, and it's. I don't know. I mean, I know everybody thinks, okay, West Nile virus, I'm not going to get it, but I'm telling you, I can hear them. I can hear them at night. There could be some holes in the screens. This is a very old house. This is Brooklyn. And I believe there's some holes in the screens. I think this fan has something to do with it. I'm not sure, but there's one right there. Oh, he just left. They're huge. I'll show you a bite. There's one. Wait, there was one on my foot. Right here. Do you see that? Right there. That's West Nile, I think. Actually, I don't think so. I mean, it's a mosquito bite. The mosquitoes are definitely in my house. Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely here. Can you hear them? I don't think there's any in here right now.
The West Nile virus caught us napping. It was a reminder of how a minor irritant can transform itself quickly into a deadly adversary.
Health officials say they will continue spraying across the city, including Central Park, until both viruses and the mosquitoes carrying them are wiped out. At Central Park, Jay Dow, New York 1.
Mosquito control is a global campaign. In southern Florida alone, up to 1,800 gallons of insecticide are sprayed in a single week. This is not about eradication. Just keeping mosquito populations here in check is the best they can hope for. understanding of the bug world has confirmed what we long feared. The ancient war is unwinnable. A dream of a bug-free world is just that. There's no getting away from it. There's no getting away from them. Bugs are affecting our lives in ways we're only just beginning to understand. Bugs bite us and poison us. They give us disease and eat our food. They're living on our faces. But as we delve deeper to find ways to fight them, we're just starting to uncover another side to these invaders. In New Mexico, bees are being trained to hunt down landmines. And even that ancient insect product, honey, has been discovered to be the only known cure for antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Maggots, once the most reviled of all bugs, are now cleaning wounds. And the tiny wasps being trained in Atlanta may soon use their super sense to sniff out invisible cancers in the human body. We'd do well to remember that our downfall and our salvation may be held within the bug's world.